ChitChat with Ella and Umu. We are your hosts,
Ella.
and Umu. And today we have a very special guest for our very first episode of the year. And I'll let you present yourself.
Hi, my name is Miriam. I'm actually honored. I didn't know this is the first podcast of the year, so thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
It was a bit of a short notice. I just got told about this an hour ago while we were running another errand, but I'm happy to be
doing
here.
some interesting activities.
Yes.
Okay, so the conversation point for today is how to stay true to yourself while pursuing endeavors fearlessly.
Yeah. How do you because this came about from our discussion toward the end of the year where I was like, I want to be bold this year. I want to, and not like necessarily care less about what people think, but try to put myself first while obviously making sure I don't hurt other people's feeling, but me first and then other people's feeling. And since the beginning of the year, I've been trying to practice that, saying no a lot. Like, I don't feel like doing it, I'm not gonna do it. But how do you define that for you? Like, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and when you were talking, I think one thing that came to mind was like Maya Angelou's statement. I think she said something that like, "Oh, be wary of someone who offers you their jacket or something when they are not wearing anything." And I feel like that's the like if you and I think the common one is, "Oh, how can you fill other people's cups if your cup is not full?" And I think that's the frame lens. If you come from that, then it's not like, because I think there's always this tag of like selfishness to it, like putting yourself first. But I feel like if you don't have a jacket on or clothes on, how can you like give other people clothes? And it's okay to have that. So that was the first thought. And I was thinking, how do I do that for myself? And I was thinking it comes down to like always what we talk about, like trying to live in integrity with yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I pursue it from that way, saying no becomes easier. Like, no.
Yes.
I say no very quickly.
Honestly.
Although like I think it's for like things that like I'm buying, like things that are general, but like when it comes to people, it's very hard for me to say no. So I think that's like the difference. Like for me, you're like, oh, you say no, but I think it's for people, things and environmental things. It depends on the environmental thing. Like if you ask me to go for a walk or something. So those are the thoughts that come to mind right now. I don't know, Miriam, what about you?
I can think about this from a few angles, but the one that the first thing that I thought about is I am no longer a big fan of saying doing one thing is always right versus doing another thing is always wrong. I think a lot of these decisions make sense based on the context. Like, we've talked about this before where can you tell someone, like, what is brutal honesty? Does that mean you tell the truth at any cost? But yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to say yes, but think about a scenario where you have a Nazi soldier at the door and asking you if you're like hiding any Jewish person, and what does your brutal honesty have? What are the consequences? So I think instead of thinking, do I always want to say no to people, or and I know that's not what you guys said, but or not always saying no. Instead of having like solid rules like that, I think about it as my significant other always says half of the world problems, or half of his problems, I don't know which one, come from saying no too late or saying yes too early. And I learned this kind of later in my life. But I think the best guidance tool for me right now is, what is the intention that I am holding behind saying yes to you? Is it because I'm trying not to hurt your feelings? Is it because I want you to accept me? Is it because I'm scared of the consequences? In that case, I'm a big believer that I'm causing misalignment. And that's the word they usually use. I used to use the word integrity, but I think they're similar. But because I feel like every time I say something that I don't want to say, it's either inspired by fear of hurting you, or fear of, and I'm not saying it's all wrong, but it doesn't make me feel good at the end of the day.
Yes.
And so yeah, that's been a guiding tool for me. I had another point, but I forgot.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to what you guys said. As I said, I've been trying to put it more in practice now, because before, I used to, as I say, be like people pleaser. I always want people to. I adapt and change myself
based on
the people. That way, my response or my reaction would be fine for the person that I have in front of me. And it has been so exhausting, because I'm like, who am I? At the end of the day, like I don't know what version of me is me. So that's why I'm like, this year. I mean, New Year always bring in this excitement to be
in the
a new
beginning,
person.
yeah.
Always in the beginning. I want to try and practicing that, and as I said, I've been
You're
feeling
doing
really,
well.
I've been feeling good about it, and I have been helpful. And as
I'm
you
the
said
guinea
at the
pig.
beginning, you have to be harsh in order to find your footing, and then start being more loose in your way of saying no or yeah. And as you said, it's helpful not to see so much as saying no or yes to someone, but
Like, what is the intention in saying no? I think if you're able to figure out, like, I'm saying yes because I just want to be nice to this person. Like, in your head, if you know, then it helps you kind of determine if you want to say yes or no. Because if you're saying yes because you actually want to do it, then it's okay, because you won't feel any thing in your chest. But if it's like
Like
you're
a
saying
paradox in your body.
yes, then if you're saying yes for other reasons, then you also, you know. So I think that's a good way to pursue it, so you don't feel bad. Because I feel like most times, because we grew up in different spaces where like there's certain expectations, especially for women.
Yeah.
It's always about pleasing, always about being like quiet and like, you know, just like walking around the world,
Obedient.
like obedience, like walking on eggshells, and it's like kind of
Taking care of others, being a mother to everyone.
Sometimes like overboard, and where like you feel like you are exhausted, you are drained, and even like whether it's at home, at work, like there's always like this thing, like expectation of like extending yourself and like always being given like so much that then you, and sometimes you just don't want to give, sometimes you just want to be in your corner.
Yes, be in your corner, or also receive the thing. And because of that,
it's hard to receive.
It's been very hard for me to let people do things for me, because I feel like I'm supposed to be the one giving, but at some point,
that makes me think of something I've never thought about before. I wonder we don't unconsciously like that because we think it's a lot of work for other people too, because we don't believe it's genuine. Maybe because we may do it on an on a obligation basis.
Yeah, like pleasing people.
But when you really feel it and you're not causing a paradox in your body, it's actually enjoyable when you do something for others, because your expectations are also in alignment with why you're doing it. So you don't necessarily expect it to be reciprocated. And another thing that I think you would do yourself and others a favor is people will see your true self. You know, it's like, and I also come from a background where I at least in my head, I depicted reality in a way that I had to be that subservient, caring person all the time, which is nothing is going to be true all the time.
And you get exhausted because you keep on.
Well, yes, we research empathy, right?
Yeah.
Empathy is costly because taking perspective takes cognitive energy
and emotion, affective ones.
Yeah, judgment is so much easier. But so then again, I can't really say you have to think of it black and white. Do you always want to like be empathetic towards others? You can't humanly possible do that without, because your cognitive resources are also limited. But the thing I wanted to say, that you're basically doing others a service too. The more you do what you really mean to do, the more genuine version of you people are, people are exposed to.
And if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it, is it? Yeah, I think that's the thing that,
and you also learn through this journey, which is also relatively new for me, that it's not, people don't like you because of those little things that you forced yourself to do. Now people are already accepting you. You already accepted. You didn't need to do any of that. And I have like an example where one of the colleagues had a birthday, and I was like, oh, maybe I should get her lipstick or like something. And then I'm like, no one expects me to. And why am I doing it? Do I feel like it's an obligation? Do I feel like they might not like me? I don't know what the exact reason was, but I didn't do it. And that relationship, is it still strong? Is it still, Yeah. So
but if you did it and it wasn't genuine, I think sometimes people pick up on those things.
Yeah.
I think.
And you pick up on it, more importantly. You're doing something that you didn't want to do. And I feel like every time we do that, we take a step back from integrity. It's like, because not everything is vibing at the same frequency, if you may.
And so, I mean, I'm sorry, I also did have a bit of that aha moment at some point, because I'm like, I've been able to, for some friends have come and go, but the ones that I've been able to keep for like the longest friendship have, the way I am, they have accepted me how I am. So why am I always trying to do extra? Like how I was telling you with you, like or with other friends.
Okay,
Again, I'm adapting and adapting, but I'm like the little moments where I let myself go and be me, they're still there and care for me. So why can't I just keep that up and just allow myself to be me with them and not always worry about how is the friend going to feel. They're coming to me, especially when I was going through loss and stuff, and people will reach out to me. I was caring more about how me being sad is going to affect them than me actually
I've
being
been there.
sad.
I've been there.
Yeah, and it was like, but no, they're reaching out because they want. I'm like, I'm always putting myself always in the person's place. Like, how are they gonna feel if it was like reverse, you know?
Yeah.
And having those.
And think about the message that, again, a lot of these processes are unconscious, right? Think about the message you're constantly giving yourself that I'm doing this, so this doesn't happen, so that happens, so this happens, and that happens. When you stop doing that, you trust those relationships even more because you know they don't love you because of those little things or big things for that matter that you are doing. They love you for who you truly are because now you have proved yourself that you can be genuine. So yeah.
So then how do we go about, so I think there are two kind of prompts we started with, like how to be your true self wherever you are. And then I guess following that is like, how do you actually implement that in a way that is like practical? And then we can follow up with the other stuff, which is like pursuing things ruthlessly. Because I feel like once you are your true self, like you don't really care like what society thinks or what other people think. You're just gonna do you, and that means like you do you like to the fullest extent or to your fullest potential, at least in my eyes. But yeah, so before that is like, how do you actually implement this? Where like you,
we have had that conversation. I don't know if it's in one of the podcasts. Or
I think we did.
For me, it started from writing down my principles
and values.
Like, what are my principles? What are my values? Like, being really brutally honest with myself. Like, what sits well with me, what doesn't. And then I went from there. I'm like, I know I care for people. I know I'm happy when somebody is happy. I know that I don't know, I enjoy just having my own space, my own space from time to time, and just went from there.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, in the end, I always think about it like, okay, as you said, intention. Where am I coming from? Okay, then I already know.
But sometimes you really want to help someone. It makes you feel good, genuinely, and I don't think we should block those opportunities.
Yeah. Just don't get too out of your way.
Yeah, to try to, and I think because last time we were talking about like empathy. I feel like empathy is like, it's like genuine, like organic. It comes, but if like you are going overboard, where like it's not really like coming out of you, but you're just doing it, and it becomes just pleasing other people. It's not really like doing. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's almost associated with a. I don't want to say exactly fear, but a negative feeling when it's not genuine.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of cultures. Do I take a coffee here? In a lot of cultures, people pleasing is a social norm, and if you violate that social norm, it's looked down upon. So it's constantly encouraged, and it for the longest time I didn't know the difference between the two. And yes, I think that feeling that you get out of doing, like taking an action. For me, the guiding feeling is the fear. Did I do it because I'm scared I get fired? I mean, there are obviously scenarios where you have to do it. I'm not saying, again, we can't.
And also choose the battles you want to fight until you're ready to fight them. Yeah.
But I am a believer that those lies that don't have consequences of life and death that we had an example about, those lies are.
You can do something. You don't have to, like, if it's not life and death, I feel like you have to then make some or take an action that like aligns, that is not like forceful.
I think those lies are usually inspired by fear. Like, I think we talked about this before, where you lie either because you want to look better than what you are, or you want to hide a weakness that you have, or you're scared to show what the reality is. And when it's inspired by that, I'm not like obviously not blocking it 100%. Again, I might have to say yes to my boss when I don't want to. But if that's how I feel over helping someone who just dropped their keys in front of me, I'm not going to do it. And for me, this journey started probably a couple of years ago, where I found myself for the longest time very hyper vigilant on if people smiled at me, when I was, walking. It became an unconscious thing where if I smiled and someone didn't smile back, I would take it personally.
Me was greeting. If I greet you and you don't respond,
Right.
Yeah, I open my mouth to greet you and you don't respond. Who are you?
Right,
Yeah.
but the thing is, then I thought about why am I doing it? Because I want that smile back.
Yeah.
So I'm like, basically, it's like a transaction that the other person is not ready for.
Yes. Also, I think for me, I took it differently. Like in terms of if I greet somebody, it's like a sense of acknowledging the person. Like, and I feel like that's different from like expecting anything from the person. It's like I see you, you're a human being.
Yeah.
I'm passing by you. So I think for me that was like kind of where I was coming from in terms of smiling or greeting and somebody's like, yeah, oh, I see you, you are there. I don't need anything from you. Like I don't need like anything
Your
from the person.
approval, yes.
Yeah, I don't need an approval from the person. But it's really good. I feel like especially now in our time and day, like people are so distant, isolated. It doesn't hurt like if you smile at somebody for a person to smile.
Sure.
And I don't think we can control other people in terms of, as you're saying, like if the person chooses not to smile, then the person chooses not. But let's
don't
like
let that
affect you.
Right.
And I feel like it's hard to do that because I think it depends on your intention, but also you were talking about not necessarily like, oh, if you're acknowledging the person, but like something that you grew up in where you're supposed to smile at somebody and like you get that like response back.
You feel
where it makes
guilty.
you feel,
Yeah.
So
But the thing I wanted to say is I'm not saying people should stop smiling at each other.
Yeah, no.
For me, it was a weakness.
Mm.
So for me, it started there where I was like, as harsh as this sounds, I'm not gonna smile at anyone from now on.
Yeah.
And it has come to a point where it does not.
Sometimes it has to be harsh in the beginning until you figure out like how to navigate.
The thing is, I don't owe a smile to everyone.
And they don't owe you a smile.
Especially,
Yeah.
Especially if I am trying to fix an issue, and I think this might be a good way to start. So for the longest time, I didn't smile at people, and I noticed how it's not occupying my mind anymore in the background, first of all. And then now I notice people are smiling at me when I don't expect it. And it's so much more genuine and I smile back with all my heart. So I think, that's the difference.
Yeah. I think for me, like going back to kind of like written values, I think for me, I have them down, but sometimes I lose touch. Like day in, day out, like, and I feel like that's something I'm trying to work on where like, your values or principles, but as day in, day goes by, like things, like little things add on and like you shift from like how you want to live in terms of those values and principles. And so for me, I think one thing I'm trying to do is like, if not anything, like go back to a touchstone like every time and kind of reorient. And then also including like reflecting, because I think when you reflect then you're able to figure out like and I feel like they're minor like injury, I don't know what the word is, like little stabs that like you try to navigate throughout the day and then it builds up. And then even though you decided you want to live by these morals or principles, you deviate. Like it's you have to build it. Like
for me, how I do that is trying to always be in the moment. Like be mindful of. I mean, it's hard to be mindful in every moment that you are having interaction with people, but at least that's what I've been practicing these past few days, and it's been working. Like once I respond to somebody in a way, I'm like later on ruminate on it and be like, okay, then I reflect on it quickly and then keep going.
Or later you say you're going to do differently. And I feel like that helps.
And I feel like at this point, I recognize if something took place that wasn't ideal, like I could have responded better, and it's preoccupying me, I know I have to sit down and write about it. What happened? How did it make me feel? And I can't say I do this often. I should. But it's just a matter of growth, right? These things
and it's slow.
It doesn't mean you have an issue. It doesn't mean that you have a weakness. These are the things that we owe ourselves and our loved ones and the rest of the society. Because, it's so easy for us to go to a doctor when our heart hurts, but when we psychologically have a problem, we just don't know what to do with it. So reflecting back is what happened? How did it make me feel? If it happened again, what would you do? What would you change? And how would that make you feel?
Yes, that's good. Sometimes what I don't like is like, I wish I was there again.
Or address it right away. It happens, if I can, address it right away, go back to the person.
Right.
If I can. And then I feel good afterward. I'm like, okay, I address it, and my intention and everything is seen, and then okay.
But I promise you, if it's a recurring issue, you will be facing it very soon.
And you have to address it.
So, and when you reflect on it, you almost is like re-experiencing it, and now it's in your memory. You've primed your memory. You now primed your memory to be for that instruction that now you have in your mind to be more accessible when you're in that, I don't want to necessarily call it fight flight, but it's probably a stressful situation, you have better access to it. It's more readily available. So
okay.
so I should journal more.
Yes, that's my goal for
I think I do it, but not more so also as you.
So you had the
and the next one, the last question is like how to pursue, because if you set out what's the first one to be true to yourself, then that true self would extend to kind of fulfilling things that you want to do to your fullest potential. Because I feel like sometimes, because we are kind of being pulled in different directions by trying to please others or not being true to ourselves, we like deviate off the path that we really want to pursue or we are called upon to pursue. And so then how do we then, knowing this, how can we then pursue like things that we want to do, like our purposes or our potential, boldlessly and fearlessly this coming year? I mean, this year's already boldly. Boldly. And I know you say fearlessly, boldlessly. No, boldly, fearlessly. Like, how do we do that?
So I don't know if I exactly understood your question.
Like, how do you pursue things that like you're passionate about? Like, because I feel like sometimes
is this a separate question, or you got like? Is
I feel like an extension of it, like because I feel like sometimes, like, and I already talk about like you are pulled. I don't know if that like you exist within the like confines of your parents' expectations, society expectations, partners, whatever, and then but you have things that you know within yourself that if you were your true self, like really living within your true self, full self, you can like you'll be rich in those things, like going for those things, not fearing if like like this person is not pleasing to this person or this. So like then how do we go about doing that now that we know that we can attempt to live within our true self or to our true self, and then by extension really going on for the things that we know we can do if we lived within our true self.
For me, I feel like it's already in your question and tied to what Nero was saying. That most of the things that we're doing to please people comes from the fear, and I've in other aspects I have become a bit more confident by letting fear go. For example, darkness. I was really scared, and just by letting the fear of darkness go, I feel like I was relieved from a lot of other things that I can't even bring myself to write down. So now what I'm actively practicing, as I say, the fear, letting all type of fears that I have go. Like the fear when someone asks me something, fearing how my no is going to make them feel like, Umu, you have changed. I'm like, letting that go. Or somebody asks me to do something, and as I say, not going overboard, trying to get it done in order to please them because I fear that my response isn't what they want to hear. Again, I mean, for me, basically, it's just letting all type of fear go. Once it makes me feel fearful, then I'm like, I think I'm getting there. Yeah.
I want to be like you when I grow up. No. I think it makes sense. No. Because I feel like I am slowly like getting there. I feel like when you make a decision, you're like, you go for it. And for me, I'm like kind of like I build like a mountain.
And that's
like,
why I was telling you that about like giving things benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's good and it's bad sometimes, because for me it's like either black or white. At least I'm working on the gray area, but for me,
first
like,
you want to start black or white, and then you shade in the gray.
As I say, if I say that this is not good, I will reflect on it because I am mindful, and then I will go back and amend it. So it's helpful. Like if I can amend, obviously I'm not
amend. We do amendment to IRBs, and she
and she loves that word. So I guess one thing I want to point out is being true to ourselves doesn't necessarily mean we can't get better. It doesn't mean that we don't have room for progress or improvement in so many ways. We all have, we always will, until our last breath, hopefully. But one thing that my point is basically to completely agree with what you said, that when you overcome something that was causing some sort of tension, chaotic vibe in your psyche, that gives you confidence. And for me, that's been scheduling my day better. Just by, how we always want to do a lot of things and we don't have time. I mean, I actually feel like even with planning, I feel that, but the difference is day and night. That when you actually plan your day, you will have extra time to do a lot of things that you want to do. by implementing that and committing to it, if something was on my to-do list, it had to be done or I wouldn't come home. And doing that for a few months, it gave me so much confidence. Now I could trust myself. Now when I said I would get this done, I knew I would get it done. I knew it's not going to like fall for next week or be postponed. And just making that change gave me so much confidence to overcome other fears or issues. And I think what you're saying is you overcame one fear, but that was such a positive feedback to your self-confidence that you're like, let's go, bring it on. Let's deal with the next challenge. And that's how you grow. That's how you become stronger. You become more resilient. You, you know, all the things.
I think, I guess, similar to yours. I think mine, I think I'm kind of pursuing kind of trying to push further into things that, like, I'm like, I want to cop out, but I'm not, like, I'm really, like, going in. Kind of leaning more, as you say, into discomfort, but like I don't want to say discomfort, and it's like I have resistance for it, but then I push myself to go further, like whether it's like working out, like increasing my weight to like a higher, even like I don't think like, or even like pole dance and like things that like I wouldn't. I mean, I think I'm adventurous, like I like to try things, but like just pushing just over what I think I could do. Yeah. I feel like for me that makes me have this energy of feeling like bolder, more confident, and also
probably
and like things that seem so far out of reach, like things that like if I don't think I like now, like my current state now, like I'll be able to do, like just general, like in your head it's like this voice, you're like, then like pushing against that, and like I'm like, if like, you know, I think I can do this, like, so then like actually having those and like that. So I feel like, because then that makes me, because other people have done things, and I feel like if I actually believe in myself, then I can do the things that I want to do, not because other people are like, I know, like if you really like put your mind to something. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm trying to, like, I do them in like the things that like I'm doing, whether it's like the things and other ones I had to do, but like, you know, you start with the small ones and then you build up to, at least that's where I'm at. The other thing that I was thinking about is like past trauma or experiences. I feel like they feed into that. And so one thing I've been trying to do is like really, really go and face like past experiences that I've had, that like from childhood all the way to teenage years, and like actually trying to like reflect back on them and like see them in my current eyes, through my current eyes, and try to analyze them in a way, because I feel like those also play a role in like creating limitations on what we can do or like how we view ourselves. And especially, I was reading this book, it's called The Source, and like the beliefs you have, and it's not just like flagrant words, like things that you're just saying, but like actually, like, do you really believe you can do this? And I feel like that's kind of where I'm kind of leaning towards. So those are some of the ways that I try and anyway, as always, we say I'm beginning. I wish I was a pro, then I could tell you.
To me, it seems like a major component of what you're exercising is willpower. And willpower is in play when you do something you don't want to do.
Yes.
It's not willpower if you've been trying to watch something on Netflix for 3 weeks and now you sit down and watch it. And I think every little thing, I recently posted something with the caption of how you do anything is how you do everything. I mean, obviously take it with a grain of salt. Yes, but my point,
not all,
okay. But in this case, I, you know, with this to-do list, some of those things I have resistance to. If it's a phone call with, I don't know, customer service, or we've had a fridge.
I set timer for those washing dishes, phone calls with customer. I set timer.
So, but every time you get them done, and it's especially now, because I found a lot of the procrastination that I had in doing a lot of stuff wasn't because I'm a procrastinator. It's because that action caused, the thought of doing something causes anxiety in me. In order to avoid the anxiety, I keep postponing until I can't anymore. And it's already too late. I'm already super anxious now, but it has to get done. So
that's why I jump on it.
She's like a doer, and but me, I'm a turtle.
How I think about it now, every time I feel the resistance, I'm like, every second you delay it, you're making it more powerful. So do it right away. And
I guess it's a different approach for you.
And every time you do it, you're flexing your willpower muscle. And imagine if you do this on a daily basis with smaller tasks to bigger tasks, how much you can accomplish in life. And success or happiness or whatever will. Well, I guess those two are very different to use. I don't want to say success because that I get into philosophical issues then.
No existential conversation.
Whatever, next time. Whatever matters to you, you can attain by willpower, commitment, determination, and not giving up with consistency. And it's a major component, and you can flex that muscle in so many ways on a daily basis. You'll become so strong. You'll get things up when you reflect back on your journey. You'll be proud of yourself.
And I hear you because I know you've been through a lot and you've gotten to places. I think that's where, I think the only thing that came up was like in doing that, I feel like sometimes we have these things and we know that we have to do them, but like when it comes to the day-to-day trudging through them, it's very hard. And one thing that I was talking to him about, and we saw it in the quotes, is like, don't strive for perfection, but just progress. Like you just want to like, even if you can't do it, you just do like 50% of it. Like as long as you're just doing it, I feel like
more than yesterday.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And if you can't do more than yesterday, just do. And I feel like that, like, because that builds, like, you know, the little things you're saying, it adds up and it builds. And I think for me, at least for me, like just doing, like, even if I'll just be there. Like, and I feel like that, because I feel like the challenge is like you especially in the beginning of the year, you have these ideas and you want to execute on them. And as we've learned, you get through the year, like you falter. But I think the challenge is like, what do you do when those times come? Because they will come. Like where you don't want to get out of bed. Or like you are there, you don't want to do it. And I feel like...
one advice one of the psychologists gave me is to write down when you are not in those moments, write down what you would do so that you're able to go back to them. Because at least for me, when I get like very low, obviously my brain can think logically.
I can't see.
But if the same me have already written it down, I trust myself, obviously. So going back to that and reading and being like, Oumou said that when you're feeling like this, you can do this, that.
Yes. And I feel like
I still haven't been able to.
And I think that's something that I really, because I feel like that those times are like when like if you have those things, they will help you, because then usually if like it's like a check and you have like a cross, you're like, and then sometimes you create domino effects where like you're like you lose like focus in yourself or the focus on the things you want to do. And I feel like for most times just showing up, or like even if you want to exercise, just going outside like and just walking. I feel like, I don't know, and it's same, but like if you do those things, I think for me, like when I'm like, for example, not want to do it, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna like walk, lift up myself off the bed and just walk or open the window.
And you feel good about the fact that you exerted willpower and you overcame that inertia, right? And one thing, sorry, go ahead.
Now, I'll say that's what people should think about in terms of like, oh, these are the things you want to accomplish, but these, what are, if you can't do it, what is the bare minimum that you can do? Or like, as you said, if the obstacle comes, when you have those moments of clarity, how can you create strategies for how to address those obstacles when they do? And these are like all theoretical, but I think if you actually put them into practice, they'll take, and the practice is like where the challenge lies, and actually putting pen to paper and doing it. But
I feel obligated, since you mentioned the word resolution, to express my opinion about it. I do not believe in them. To me, no. I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily. I have a point. Resolution to me is like dieting. It's like living the not ideal lifestyle with fitness and diet, but wanting to go through like a diet for a month to reverse that. A fit body, a healthy mind comes from consistency, comes from practicing the same thing as it becomes a part of your life. So if you only do it for New Year's, what are you going to do for the rest of the year? You know. So to me, I think those should be daily. You should have yearly goals, monthly goals, and daily goals.
And I mean, I agree with you, but then. I mean, having those resolutions like is a way to start, at least for me.
For starting somewhere, for some,
This is the first year ever where I
it's an inspiration.
Down to really
actually,
my New Year resolution. I guess that's the first year in a long time since I felt excited about
doing
being
stuff,
live and doing stuff. So like I actually wrote it down, but then as you say, break down into
chunks,
like what I can do every
single day.
Obviously, I'm being honest with yourself. I think those.
Brutal honesty.
You have to be brutally honest, and on top of that, taking day by day. As I said, that's my motto. What used to stress me out before is I plan to do this, for example, on Monday, and on Monday I don't get to do everything that I've said like I'm gonna do. Then it stays up on me, and then it messes up.
That's consecutive days. Yes,
so
exactly.
I'm like, okay, Monday I couldn't do well, but Tuesday is a new day.
Start over.
What can I? Every day is a new opportunity to start afresh.
Yes.
So that's how I do. At least.
And I heard from this person, it's called Peter Tier. He's a physician leader. He was talking about how, like, okay, you got a fail today. Don't let it occur like more than 2 times or something. Like, you're like, oh, I failed today. Okay. Then the following day, like, don't
dwell on it.
don't dwell on it. Don't let it be like another day. Yeah, you feel okay. And I feel like that's how it's, because I think like most times we just like, if you're dieting, going to the gym, whatever, it's like you always want it to be like how you envisioned it to be. And in reality, it won't go, like, you get sick, you won't feel like going. And I feel like all you gotta do is the consistency. Like, how can you maintain a consistency? I feel like as long as you get 75% and up, I feel like you're okay. You just need a high yield. You need to like
also, how can you be a stronger person if you don't fail and show yourself that as soon as you fail, you
but
get
I feel like this is there. I feel like the failure is very hard for us to navigate and
but that's
go
what
through.
you learn from.
No, I'm not saying you should have said.
Like,
you won't become strong unless you are challenged.
I mean,
like that.
It's like, don't strive to always fail, but let it
it's
come.
Like, I mean, think about
like it's okay to work. No, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm saying that yes, that's that, and I feel like that's a theory that we understand. But I think when you are in the midst of it, it's very hard for you to like move yourself from the grasses and look up. And I feel like that's what we need to be able to do. Because most times we talk, you talk about it, you talk about it, but when you're in it, I think it's very hard. And I feel like for me, most times you know like how to live well, what to eat, what to do. But I think like it's when you're amidst the trenches, that is when like you, and I feel like that's where we need to focus. It's like, how do you navigate the day to day? Because I feel like the theories and the ideologies, most of us, we know it. We know what to eat. We know how to exercise. We know, yes. And I feel like the challenge is like actually in the day to day, like in the implementation and like actually putting like little gears here around to be able to navigate and be like, oh, okay, failure. Like you have the ideology, but like how do you actually live it when it happens to you? And I feel like that's what, so I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Something important that comes to mind is just like the scientific phenomena, we would like to simplify them. One arrow, A goes to B to C. That's not how it works. In my life, I've realized when the self-confidence goes up, the eating behavior becomes better. The fitness commitment becomes better. Fitness commitment becomes better. My cognitive function becomes better. Every part of this you pick up. Like, that's why it's so important to know your value system, because even if you don't write it on paper, even if you don't know it consciously, deep down you know what's important to you. And it's possible that every day you're breaking those laws within yourself. And that's not going to promote confidence. So once you have your value system, you have a compass. You know when you're like emotional, what you'll stick to. You know when you're making an impulsive decision, what's important to you. And you know, at the end of the day, you know you have made your best decision under the circumstances. But I think it's important to have that information about yourself on a day-to-day basis, even if you fail. If succeeding in that aspect is so important to you and it's a part of your value system, it might inspire you more. Having a friend who reminds you what's important to you will inspire you more. It's like, I think there are 1,000 factors that play at it, and we need to implement as much of it as we can, possibly.
But start with one at a time, I guess.
Yes.
Then what will be your concluding?
I think I like how she talked, like it comes back to round zero, like define your values. I think we always talk about it and the principles that you want to live life to guide you. I think kind of coming back to it consistently, touchstone, because I think there's always going to be experiences that are going to disrupt like this vision we have or like how we want to live, and like always touchstone to like reflecting and kind of coming back to it. And I think those are the things and also finding ways to like navigate the day to day, like actually creating structures, like as I said, like planning the day before, or like every day is a new day. Like if you falter yesterday, just get back today and go on. And I feel like those are the like, and actually defining for us, because everybody's different, and actually like kind of thinking of it as an experiment, and like you're looking at yourself and always like kind of checking off things, and I feel like that might help. And I feel like once you know your values and you're trying your best to live by those values, doing your best. And I feel like those are like eventually the things are going to like eventually lead into like an alignment. And in the beginning it will be hard because, as you said, you might have to be harsh figuring it out. But I think those are it. Is there anything else that good summary?
I mean, you already summarized. Just be honest with yourself, know your values, and don't let fear guide your decision, and embrace fear, I guess. The word embrace responsibility.
We can do that another time.
Embrace fear because that's what makes you
embrace fear
stronger. She got something.
Okay.
Well,
I think you covered it all. I think gradually step into the ocean of being completely yourself when you can, because it will make you feel better about yourself.
Okay, merci beaucoup.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you,
Ciao.
Miriam.
Miriam. Bye.